What's up, everyone? Welcome to today's video. Welcome to the Gamer Dad channel. Thank you very much for tuning in. So there is a four-person co-op game that is on the horizon, and next month we're going to be seeing the release of this particular video game. It is called Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. Now, I'm sure some Division players probably already know about this game. It is one of those titles that is wanting to enter the live service space. It is a shooter, and to be very honest, I don't necessarily, comprehend to how much most Division agents would have even looked this direction for this particular game. Now, within my clan and within some of the players that I play, the Division with, I've seen, a little bit of interest in, say, asking what the game is about, because the game's marketing has been to a very specific community. For those of you who may or may not know, this game is being made also, surprisingly, by the developers of the Arkham games. So already there's a lot of, in my opinion anyways, a few questions that people may be asking, like, okay, if these folk were developing, the Arkham game in the past, why is it that they're moving this direction at this time? Well, it's a simple equation, because a lot of these companies right now are looking at ways to be able to make and monetize, their games more and more. So this game is one of those games that's going to come out as a base game, and then all the, in quotes, DLC or expansion or whatever it is that they're going to be doing is supposedly claiming to be free at the end of the day. So this is kind of the catch 22 overall whenever it comes down to things. Now, the one thing I have to say though with with regard to this particular game is a lot of the reception has been really strange, because the target audience is one of those audiences that is, in a sense, purist about what it is that they've wanted. And so that's where the challenge has been overall in terms of the game's perception. There have also been all kinds of interesting things like leaks, according to, people here and there who data mined the alpha and so on and so forth, about the content of the game, about some of the story beats, and then a lot of things were walked back. It's been a very precarious situation for the most part. Now, my question for Division agents is, a game like this, has been, in my opinion, spurred on by what has taken place in the Division universe. Now, when the Arkham game came out, the Arkham Knight came out. This was the last game that was actually, developed by Rocksteady. That was a single player game, and it did come out in 2015. After that, there was DLC and, support that was done by another studio. But many of you remember that in 2016, the Division itself was released. Since the Division has been released, we have seen a lot, and I say a lot, of other games try to maybe come in and replicate the success that the Division has had by itself. This has been, a trend going for a very long time. It is not a small thing for anybody to have seen the Division, to have seen its success, to not want to at least copy it. Now, it took all that time to be able to get this game to market, and I don't necessarily know exactly what all of the, intricacies would have been within the studio and so on and so forth. But this has been a very interesting game. Even the studio head, and the two studio heads, they actually did leave. That was crazy. When, at first they had marketed the game, they had talked about the game in 2020 when it was first revealed, but then eventually ended up leaving the studio at the cusp of the game getting released. So there have been a lot of things that have been quite interesting overall. But those of us who play the Division because we play a live service game, I think when we look at games like this in our minds, we kind of know, how the going goes. It's a little rough. Everyone is trying to figure out stuff. And at the end of the day, though, when you think about how these games are very challenging to make, you see the way the Division support, is actually kind of slow, even though I think it's probably one of the better supports that you have out there when it comes to a live service game, except for the $35 skins anyways. You start to see how this can be, a really, really big challenge when it comes to putting a game like this together and supporting the game. So for those of you who are in the Division community, I think the main question I wanted to ask was, a game like this, would it ever in any way, any fashion, would it ever appeal, to you when it comes down to things? Would it ever be something that you would ever touch? Would it be a game that you would even dare check out? Because it's going to be a full price game. This is not going to be like a free game and then everybody, it's not going to be a tiny game where everybody's just going to go in there and it's going to be free to play and all of that stuff. This is going to have a full price tag that's attached to it at the end of the day. So these are some really interesting questions that I think division agents, will probably be asking themselves if they ever have thought about a game like this. Now, another thing too that must be, settled is the art style of the game is, very different. It's not gonna be, like the realistic, in a sense, maybe a realistic portrayal. I won't say realistic art style, but a realistic portrayal that you see in the division. This is a big divergence from many other games like Destiny, and even this game, Suicide Squad. It's trying to represent Metropolis, so fictional city, highly fictional characters, and trying to kind of maybe put that in perspective. A lot of stuff is going to be aerial in terms of combat. You're fighting against superheroes, and all the stuff that we've been seeing here in the promos really do make it a very different game. But it is still worth noting, or at least it's still worth paying attention to seeing how this game is going to really, thrive or not thrive in the market, because what the division has been doing has been very unique. In fact, even to the point where even Destiny players right now being disenfranchised, some of them anyways, are making their way to the division or have made their way to the division in the past and have been able to commend the division for what the division has been capable of putting together, because what the division has done is no small thing. I mean, I know a lot of people might, be talking about different things, maybe essentially trying to minimize, what the division has been able to achieve in the end. But to be very honest with you, ladies and gentlemen, the division has, in my opinion, surpassed a lot of expectations. And even this Suicide Squad game is more than likely going to, not sit well with a lot of division players with regard to what it has to offer. It really doesn't have much to offer when it comes down to the whole, setup in terms of, say, gear, in terms of, all kinds of other things. So this is going to be a very light game compared to what it is that you've been used to playing. In my opinion, anyways, this is going to be a very interesting game. However, the game seems like it has a story attached to it, which they're going to bring an offline version of it later on. This is something that the division doesn't have. I don't know if the next division game, if there's going to be that component, because the Division 1 and Division 2 is fully online. You'd have to be connected to the internet to be able to play it. And for sensible reasons, the game is really stacked. The game is one of those games that will require a lot of hardware processing. So I can see how they can basically say, yeah, it makes sense to take a lot of that and put those on servers. Anyways, I wanted to make this video and I wanted to see if we can draw the correlation between how the players may overlap. It's almost obvious as well, too, that this game is targeting division agents, because they had an open alpha as well. And after that open alpha, they did a lot of, they did some feedback Q&A stuff that you could go fill out a survey for. And there you could see that they were asking questions about how much people played specific games, and the division has now become a standard in questions like that. So what kinds of games do you play? When people say EA, when people say EA's FIFA or Activision's Call of Duty, somewhere, somehow, Ubisoft's The Division comes into play, because it's one of those games that it has garnered, millions, if not, if I'm being conservative, millions of hours of playtime. And so that's where I think this kind of game wants to kind of set its foot in the market. Whether or not it's going to be successful doing it, that's a whole different conversation. But I guess overall, we're going to see how things eventually pan out. So let me hear your thoughts in the comment section. Thank you so much for watching the video. I appreciate you guys' time and audience. Hopefully we'll talk pretty soon in another one. Peace out.